Hello and welcome to another episode of CAD Live, the thrice weekly internet show, which is unique in this space in that you get your dating questions answered live on stream. So put them in the chat. If you've got any questions about dating, about game, about the dating marketplace, stick them in the chat. It's called CAD Live because my flagship course is called Charisma and Dating Academy. It's closed at the moment. It will be open again on 1st of December. And that's where I teach you the exact mindsets and charismatic tools in order to ace it in what is, let's face it, a very, very difficult dating marketplace indeed. Okay, I'm trying a different camera today. So let me know if it's lagging too much or whatever. And let me know the volume's okay. So, how's everyone doing? Have you had a good week? I hope everyone is enjoying their Friday and looking forward to a wonderful weekend. I am going live slightly early today again, and the reason for that is because I am helping James Tusk with some stuff this afternoon, so I'm going to be out. So I'm doing this now. Our normal time, as you are aware, no doubt, is 11:30 a.m. EST or 4:30 p.m. GMT. So this is a little bit early. I did say the other day I would do this at a slightly different time. So apologies for that. But I thought it's better to come on and do a proper hour in the studio rather than sort of I was going to have to do it remotely and stuff like that. It wouldn't have been very good. So with all of that being said, is dating dead? Well, there are plenty of people out there who would claim that in 2020, dating is dead. And they would claim that for a whole host of reasons, really. You've got all of the black pill dudes or the doomer kind of dudes who would claim that dating is just over completely unless you are a Chad, unless you are enormously, wonderfully, handsomely good looking like me, then dating is just finished and that's it. There's nothing that you can possibly do. Having said that, there are also other people because of the situation because of the situation with COVID and because of what's happened socially as a result of that, they would say that dating is dead for that reason. And, let's be honest, they've kind of got a bit of a point this year because it's been very hard to get out and meet people. While there's been a lot of activity on on Tinder and on the dating apps, obviously everybody having to go around wearing a mask and being confined to their homes for long periods of time hasn't helped the dating marketplace. Let's be completely upfront about that, okay? But is dating dead? Is this it? Is this the end? The doomsters, the gloomsters would say that it is. And that obviously is something I disagree with vehemently. Because, while these people are sitting around at home on their computers and they are banging on about how everything's so terrible and everything's so difficult, I'm actually out there working with clients, observing what's going on out there in the field. And from my perspective, from my vantage point, and I'm based in London in the UK, so that's kind of where I'm looking at this from. But even in other places that I have visited across Europe and being in contact with guys all over the world, my perspective on this is that dating is absolutely very much alive. And, well, it's alive and kicking, okay? Because you can't suppress human nature for too long. You can push it down for a short while. You can say to people, well, we want you to stay at home, protect, suppress the virus, protect lives, etc., etc. But that doesn't turn off people's feelings. That doesn't turn off the desire for people to get together and to connect. And if anything, something like the current situation where we have lockdowns or semi-lockdowns or restrictions and things like that actually only whets people's desire even more in order to go out, party and get jiggy with it. So Siami Sahar says, I agree. Thank you very much, Siami, for chiming in. Guys, if you've got questions about your own dating lives, about the circumstances that you're finding yourself in, then please stick them in the chat and we will get to them because I want this to be interactive today. I want to get as much from you guys in terms of where you're at, the difficulties, the challenges, the issues that maybe you're facing at the moment, and we can discuss them. Going to do about an hour today, and then I've got to pop out because, as I say, I'm going to be doing some work with Mr. James Tusk, so looking forward to that very much. What makes dating difficult for guys is their lack of confidence and their lack of having a sense that it is possible, okay? And a lot of what I see online these days are basically elaborate excuses for why the guy is not able to go out and create traction in the dating marketplace, okay? The guy, just excuses, reasons. They've been called in the day game scene weasels, okay? There are ways that you weasel out of taking action. And currently some of the top ones are, well, she's wearing a mask. It's the middle of the pandemic. There are restrictions in my area. I'm too unattractive. She's not going to like me. The dating marketplace is now so skewed to the top 20% that there's no point in me even trying. These are some of the key excuses that we hear all the time. Ian says, I think it'll be the roaring 20s when things reopen. I absolutely agree with that. Ben says, one black pill dude already gave this stream a thumbs down. Well, all interaction is good interaction as far as the algorithm is concerned. So the more black pill guys who give it the thumbs down, the better, because it helps to bump up the ratings with the algorithm. So I agree with what has just been said by Ian about this being like the roaring 20s when things reopen. I mean, to be honest, I've been saying that all year. As soon as all of this kicked off back in March, April, I was, coming onto streams, going onto videos and in blogs and things, and I was basically saying, look, as soon as things reopen, it's going to be like crazy. It's going to be like Weimar Berlin. It's going to be like the fall of Rome. People are just going to be out partying, blah, blah, blah. And really, when you look at it, I was right, because in the UK, at least, we have had, and in Europe, actually, we've had a bit of a respite over much of the summer. Things started to open up again here in London in around July, I think, late June. In Berlin as well. I mean, obviously, Sweden's been open for most of the time. And certainly what we saw in London was some pretty crazy scenes when people were just suddenly let loose and everyone was out. And, the police are there trying to contain things a bit. They're trying to sort of enforce distancing and these sort of boundaries and things like that. But it's very, very hard to do. And, you get the people who are really on board with restrictions and they criticize people for, not for being stupid, these COVID idiots. They criticize people for, not taking the restrictions seriously. But I think it's misguided to criticize people, because in the end, people are just, what the restrictions ask people to do is very much against human nature. Human nature is very much to go out there, to mingle, to meet with other people. Why do you think we always get these big crowds? It's always been a feature of human existence, hasn't it? To get big groups of people together. And ultimately, people want to get together in order to meet and to be attracted to one another and to engage in erotic activities or intimacy, as we say on this YouTube channel. So yeah, you're never going to suppress that entirely. You're never going to get rid of that entirely. And so all of this fear that dating is dead, it's just never going to work out, nothing, we may as well give up. It's all nonsense. It's all still there under the surface. Guys still want to go out and meet girls. Girls still want to meet guys. It's all still absolutely there. We just have to probably, if restrictions continue where you are, we're just going to have to put up with it for a bit longer. Let's face it, right? 2020, bit of a write-off, really. 2020's just been, like, whatever kind of gloss you put on it. And for me personally, it's been a pretty good year. I mean, professionally, it's been a pretty good year. Really enjoyed getting on this channel, doing all of these live streams, hanging out with you guys and everything else. It's been pretty cool. But, overall, it's been sort of like, it's been a bit of a rubbish year, hasn't it? And that's just how things go. That's just the way of things. We can't do anything about it, okay? And a big part of life, I think, is that you have to accept the things that you can't change. Gerber says, follow the restrictions. It's temporary. let's not be children about this. Well, I mean, there's going to be there's going to be different opinions on that, but overall, I agree. I'm not one to buy into huge conspiracy theories. I think that, we are in a temporary situation. We're in an unprecedented situation. But it will pass. We saw that it had passed to some degree in the summer. Things get tighter again over the winter. It's rubbish. Nobody likes it. But what are you going to do? I was just working with a client before, actually. And we were chatting. And he was telling me how in his particular area, because in the UK they're splitting it up, so there are different sort of like rules in different places. He was telling me how in their particular area the restrictions are going to get tightened again over the weekend, and obviously that's really bad news for him. But in the end, you've got to be philosophical about this. So he was sort of saying, well, what can I do? And I said, well, look, I mean, you can spend this time in really souping up your online dating profiles. And I suggested that he could engage a photographer and get some shots done. I believe that's still okay because that's a professional service. It's work related. So I think that's still fine as far as the regulations are concerned. He could get the photographer. I then suggested that he, choose the best pictures. I said get a stylist. If the shops are still open, go to a shop, get a personal shopper, get a stylist, get your look sorted out, get your clothing sorted out, get a bunch of shots done, right? Because I've got a friend who's based in Berlin who's taken most of the professional pictures that I've put out of me on things like Instagram and the channel art for this channel and so on and so forth. There's a friend of mine based in Berlin, Drew Kaplan, who's a professional photographer, who's actually a sports photographer most of the time, but he does some things with music and stuff like that, and he does some stuff for me as well as kind of a and we get to hang out and whatever, And basically what he does is he will take over the afternoon, we'll spend an afternoon or maybe the whole day, and he will take hundreds and hundreds of pictures of me. We're talking 500 pictures, 600, 700 pictures. He'll take a ton of pictures of me. What a lucky guy. And then we get them back and we have a look at them, and most of them are rubbish. I look terrible in most of them. But out of that 500, out of that 700, 800, 1,000 pictures, there's going to be a few. There's going to be a few that look good, okay? So then we go through, and, well, he goes through first, and he just gets rid of the ones that are really bad, and then he sends the rest to me, and I go through, and I select the ones that I like, the ones that look good. And then you can put them into FaceApp. So there's a fantastic application called FaceApp, which if you're in the online dating scene or if you want put pictures out for any other reason, you want to have a look at. It costs a little bit of money a month, I think, but it's not extortionate. And that app can really, really help sharpen up your images, improve the way that you look, etc., etc. And then you can upload to your dating profiles and hopefully start to get better results. So there's you could be doing all of that, okay, in this period, even if the restrictions are making it harder for face-to-face dating to take place. You can still work on your profiles. You can still work on your online presence. I mean, what about your Instagram? What are you doing with your Instagram? Is your Instagram optimal? Is it showing you in the best possible light? Is it showing your lifestyle as being glamorous and aspirational? And by the way, I'm talking to myself as much as you here because my Instagram is probably needs some work in terms of the direction, let's say. It's kind of strange when you've got a sort of quasi-professional Instagram because I tend to put a lot of pictures of me on there looking pensively into the middle distance. As I've said before, I'm not going to put pictures of my girlfriend because she is a private person. She's got a professional job. So, I'm not going to do that. I put some pictures with friends and things like this. But, like that, it's kind of difficult when you've got a quasi professional Instagram page like I do. But if it's basically a personal one, it's one that you're going to be using out there in the dating arena, and everybody should have one. And, most professional dating coaches have a public facing one and then a private one as well, and they use the private one when they're out meeting new girls. the private one, or the one that you're using in the dating marketplace, should be carefully curated so that you are showing your best possible self. You want to curate it so that you are showing that you're living a cool lifestyle, that you've got friends, that you are a sociable character, and that you're not just, living in a basement somewhere, like scratching your genitalia. You want to show that you are somebody who's like, you've got something going on, you've got something kind of cool, you've got a cool life that she could become involved with. Okay. Wayne Rooney is a barrel of Wayne Ronnie is a barrel of laughs, isn't he? Girls want to meet Chad off Tinder to pump and dump her. Average men are invisible. And then he says COVID-19 is not going to vanish on January the 1st. Next year is going to be absolute garbage as well. I mean, yeah, quite possibly. Although some people think that COVID-19 is going to disappear on, is it November the 4th? Depending on what happens in the United States. But yes, I think there's some truth in that. I think this is kind of an ongoing thing. But look, I mean, in the end, what are we going to do? And what you need to do as well, and this depends on where you are geographically. But what you also need to be keeping an eye on is what different countries are doing, because the restrictions are not uniform all over the world. There are countries where there are less restrictions, and then there are countries where restrictions are tighter. And this is why, and this is something that Tates actually talk about a lot, and I agree with them on this. Location independence is so key in this day and age if you want to really live as a self-actualized guy. And what I mean by location independence is that you ideally you're working for yourself, but even if you're, say, a freelancer, or even if you're working for a company, at least you have the opportunity to travel, you have the opportunity to go to different places. And I suppose one of the very few, I don't want to say benefits, but one of the very few things that's come out of this that could be kind of useful in this regard is the fact that work from home has become such a big deal now. And I personally know people who have negotiated with their companies and said, well, listen, seeing as I'm working from home, why don't I work from Estonia, or why don't I work from, Vienna or whatever, because I'm not in the office anyway, so it doesn't really matter exactly geographically where I am. And, the employers have bought into that, because, like, once you've got employers to say, they're like, okay, fine, my staff don't need to be sitting around in the office, the entire time in order to do their work. Then the next stage of that is to say, well, they don't really need to be in the country, right? I mean, as long as the work is getting done, then that's fine. So however you do it, you want to seek to build in location independence into your existence to the greatest degree possible, because then what you can do is you can start to scout around. And you can think, well, okay, well, the UK is not looking great, but restrictions aren't as great in Sweden still, even though more restrictions have been put in Sweden. It's still not as bad as the UK. There are other places in Europe where things are not, quite as stringent as they are here, and that goes for other geographical locations as well. So the more location independence that you've got, the greater ability you have to move around. And what you'll find that there are other locations where the dating marketplace is a lot more free and easy, where there's a lot more opportunities for you, okay? And, that's something you really want to look in. And I would say, if 2020 has taught us anything, it must be, surely, that the massive importance of autonomy, of personal freedom, should be at the forefront of everyone's list, I mean, so, like, whatever circumstance you find yourself in now, if you are self-employed, if you're employed by a company, if you're in a corporate job or something like this, really, I think the big lesson from this year is you want to be looking at that. You want to be thinking, well, obviously we're not out of the woods by any means yet, but you want to be looking at it and thinking, okay, so, like, now I've seen that this kind of thing can happen. What am I going to do in order to in order to get out, in order to free myself up so that I don't have to sit here like, sitting duck and, just have to put up with this, right? So building in the greatest amount of freedom in your life is good for you as a guy in order to self-actualize. But it's also good for your dating prospects as well, because if you can just get on a plane and go somewhere else, where there are more dating prospects, obviously that puts you in a better position. And sometimes all of these dudes, it's kind of like black pill dudes or whatever. I do sometimes wonder where they are geographically and whether they've ever left that area. Because I think, yes, if you are sitting around and you're in, say, a small town in the United States of America, or in a small town in Canada, or a small town anywhere, really, then it's very likely that the dating marketplace there is very tough. Because, the chances are you're stuck in a hierarchy where you've got like whoever the cool kids are at the top who are like rocking it, like the head of the football team, all that kind of stuff, who are enjoying the spoils of the dating marketplace. And if you're somewhere down here, you're just not getting a look in, right? And so I can understand if you're stuck geographically in one particular area, how it's easy to get into that doomer mindset, because you're thinking, well, this is like what I'm seeing. My experience of the dating world is this, and it's rubbish. But the point is, we live in this amazing, and despite the pandemic, we live in this amazing world where, because of the internet, because of relatively cheap travel, the connectivity we have now, you don't have to be stuck geographically any longer. And this is something that everyone needs to recognize and really leverage to their advantage. So Ian says, is location independence coaching guidance something you offer? It's certainly something that I do calls about, yes. So if you drop me an email, troy@realtroyfrancis.com, I certainly do Zoom consultations, and this is something that I cover. So yeah, absolutely. We can certainly have a chat about it. Wayne says, Troy is black-pilled. Location maxing is legit. Foreigner Halo is real. Just be white Halo is real. Well, I mean, it always strikes me as odd that the black pill community claim location maxing as being one of their sort of their idea, because that's been something that's been part of game, if you like, forever. There's nothing new about the idea of traveling and having some exotic value when you travel. There's nothing sort of new about that. And I don't think it's something that should be seen as a negative either. I mean, I think sometimes I read people's posts and things or comments, and they're sort of like, oh, I'm reduced to having to travel. Like, there's no hope for me here. Guys like me, we have to travel in order to, get any sort of traction in the dating marketplace. And these red pill guys, they just don't understand it. If you were like me, you'd have to travel. I'm like, great, traveling is awesome. Like, I don't see the problem. But as I say, there's nothing new about this. It's not something that, it's not like, it's just another string to your bow. I mean, if you look at people like, RSD traveled all over the world, and they would often talk about the different responses that they would get in different markets. If you look at Tom Torero, his entire channel was about travel. And again, he would often acknowledge or talk very openly about the fact that in certain markets he would get more traction than in others. James Tusk does the same thing. I mean, this is just part and parcel of the dating skills space, if you like. This isn't some sort of like black pill discovery or something indeed that anyone should see as being a sort of a last resort. I think it's a no-brainer. I think it's a no-brainer. I think if you live in a, bum town in the middle of nowhere, get out. Again, Paul Janker, back in the early 2000s, people would say to him, he was, if you remember, somebody who was doing daytime approach in Manhattan, in New York City. And guys would say to him, okay, well, I live in this tiny town in Wyoming. How do I get good at day game? And he would say, you travel, you go somewhere else, you go to New York, right? I mean, it's like it's so obvious, it's almost embarrassing, really, to have to talk about this. I mean, because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you travel to a place where your value is seen as higher, and it's a lot of fun as well, However, I would sound this note of caution, which is that guys sometimes feel like, oh, so all I have to do is get on a plane to Eastern Europe, or all I have to do is go to X country and it's all going to be great because I've got my American passport, or because I've got my well, I'm not sure a UK passport counts now, but you know what I mean? Like, I've got my Western passports, so they're all going to be just aghast at my brilliance and my glory, and they're going to fall down before me and blah, blah, blah. And that's not necessarily the case either, okay? Certainly, and I've got quite a lot of experience in places like Eastern Europe, because I live quite near there. It's not very far for me to go to Poland, or go to Estonia, or go to Czech Republic, or Hungary, or any of these places. I can tell you for a fact that it's not that the women who are living there are blown away because you are an American, or blown away because you are English, and they're just want to lay down and give themselves over to you. I mean, it's a fantasy to think that. Okay, you still need to understand the dynamics that operate between the sexes. You still need to be able to comport yourself in a charismatic and charming manner. You still need to be able to generate excitement. You still need to be able to be flirtatious and charismatic and all of those different things. And that's kind of what game is, really. So don't also think on the other side of it that it's just as easy as getting on a plane and rock up and go hey guys, here I am, let's go, because that's not going to work either. You still need to learn how this stuff operates. Your Mind says dating died in Houston, Texas in 2005, and one night stands was all, I guess he means all that was on the menu. Well, that sounds awesome. I wonder when the next flight to Houston, Texas is. That sounds like a fantastic development. Ian says, go to different countries, collect cool stories, see cool stuff, have cool experiences, take cool pictures for your cool Instagram, reap rewards, and meet cool girls. Exactly. I mean, my issue with this whole conversation within the sort of black pill space about travel is I just don't see I don't see why you would not want to travel. I just don't see why. Like for me, as I've said many times, for me, my attitude is that life is pretty random. There's not much of an overall point to it. It's pretty short. You're going to be dead a very long time. So you might as well enjoy it while you're here, because we're here now. So we may as well have a good time. We may as well enjoy it, right? So what are the things that you want? Now, if one of the things that you want is a bountiful and abundant dating life, which I assume it probably is, given that you're tuning into this and given that this is what is under discussion, then you've got to think about the ways in which you can possibly get that. Now, if you regard yourself as being somebody who is disadvantaged in your local market for whatever reason, and we're all a bit disadvantaged in our local market because we're not particularly exciting. Like if I walk up to a British girl who has a similar background to me, then that's not particularly exciting. I mean, she might like me. She might think I'm all right. She might, whatever. But it's not winning me any brownie points, is it? I'm just another one of those guys. I'm another one of those British guys. So, we all to some extent don't suffer in our local marketplace, but we don't have any brownie points in our local marketplace. So my first response to this would not be to go on to a Reddit message board and start posting about how terrible my life is, or to go on to, you know, a 12-hour live stream with the camera switched off like this. So like, yeah, they're all gay. Yeah, them red pill people, they're all gay. Yeah, it's over. Like that. Do you know what I mean? I would be, instead, I would be spending the time to think, okay, so where can I go where I'm going to be more advantaged? Where can I go where, you know, like my value is going to be appreciated more? That just seems like a no-brainer to me, you know? Like, there's no point in spending the time with the negativity. There's no point in wasting time complaining about things. You know, you want to get out there. The world is a big place. Now, granted, at the moment, that's a bit tricky. But you know, like as and when things ease up, you can absolutely do that, and it just seems like a no-brainer. It just seems like it is a silly thing to even be sort of like talking about. Netherlands sucks for a mixed guy. That may be true. 20 minutes from downtown Houston is the cheating capital of the USA. Sugarland, Texas. Wow. Interesting stuff. Did you disable super chats? No. The channel is not monetized. There's no annoying adverts. I'm not here to grift. Guys, they're just grifters. All them guys are just grifters. I'm not here to grift. I'm not here for super chats. But you can support me on Patreon. So the Patreon link is below. There's also a Streamlabs link below as well, I think. So if you want to give me a tip, you can do that via Streamlabs. And buy my books. Renegade Dating Blueprint is available below. So you can get that as well. To be fair, some people in the manosphere just need to come out of the closet. I don't really think so. I mean, there's a lot of fake news and conspiracy theories about that, isn't there? I don't think. I mean, I don't really think they do, because, like, fundamentally, what you have to understand is that the marketplace for selling dating advice or whatever to guys is not so amazing that a bunch of gay dudes would want to jump on board in order to get a piece of the pie. Do you know what I mean? It's just like it's not like the market is so great that you've got people hiding their sexuality in order to get a piece of this wonderful pie. There are far, far better markets that people could get into to make a lot more money than most people do within this space. So I think that is a conspiracy theory that is just pretty damn ridiculous. Jimmy says, how important do you think having a repertoire of ways to entertain women, be it socially with connections, events, and at home? Can you give some ideas? I don't know really. I don't think that. I don't know really. I mean, I try to keep it simple. You know, like I'd rather keep it simple. It's just like you meet her. You go out for a few drinks, then you're looking to escalate things forward to the next phase, which is perhaps she comes, you know, to your place to watch some Netflix or your videos or, you know, whatever it is, and you move things on like that. I don't think putting too much time in sort of constructing complicated sort of like entertainment or anything like that is really a way I would be going. I mean, if you start dating and things like that, you know, sure, you can go to some cool places, you can go to a nice restaurant, you can go to, you know, events and stuff like that. But I think in the initial stages, which is kind of what we're talking about here, I don't think it's really necessary to have a repertoire of ways. I think you should just keep it really simple. If you've got a nice lounge bar that's near where you live and it's got some low lighting, some nice couches, or whatever you call it, you know, sofas, so you guys can sit next to each other, that's good enough. You know, I wouldn't overthink it. In the early stages, certainly. Ian says, it can be an effort to get the girls you really want, but it's doable. Don't lose hope and keep building yourself up. I mean, I don't know. I saw a thing the other day, or maybe it was today, and it was saying that yeah, these guys are all in their 40s and they don't. I don't think they really talk like this. These guys are all in their 40s and they don't understand what it's like for us youngins on the scene. You know, things were different back then. I mean, of course, I'm not married, so I think they were directing it more at some of the guys who are married or sort of have settled down, and they're sort of saying, look, your impression of the dating marketplace is not accurate, because in 2020 things are very different, and you guys don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like at the cutting, you know, at the rock face of Black Pill Misery. And firstly, that's not true. But secondly, I think the idea that there was this halcyon period when it was all easy and there were no problems and everybody got their fair share and everything else is not true, because I've shared on this channel many times about my own experiences with negativity and disliking my looks and you know, reaching a suicidal level at various points because of feeling rejected, because of not feeling good enough, and all of those different things. And and that was from the late 80s, early 90s. So certainly in that time, I don't think things have changed massively. Somebody said on the stream the other day that human nature remains the same. Technology changes, human nature remains the same, and I think that's true. I mean, all that's happened now is that technology has kind of amplified things a bit because there's a lot more connectivity and people have a lot more options. So yes, I acknowledge that hasn't made things any easier, and that's why we talk about the global dating marketplace, and you know, we all acknowledge that things are a bit tougher. But I think to imagine that things were just incredibly easy 10, 15, 20 years ago is not accurate either. There were still winners and losers in the dating marketplace. I was a loser in the dating marketplace for a long time. I certainly wasn't one of those mythical top 20% who was taking all the spoils. And yeah, I was pretty unhappy for a long time. But as I've said, what I learned was that mindset shifts and comporting yourself in a different manner changes things massively, okay? And this is what we teach in CAD Academy. So the way that you put yourself across, the way that you present yourself socially, and the micro communications that you emit when you're in a social situation, those things hugely change the way that people see you, that women see you, and the way that you are received, and the way that they react to you. Okay, and that's my lived experience. So people can say that they don't like it, or they don't believe it, or whatever. But that is my lived experience, and it's that mindset shift that I teach in CAD Academy, and with the techniques as well. Because as I said, when it happened to me, everything changed for me. You know, my entire dating life changed overnight, almost overnight, because my mindset and the way that I presented myself changed. And that's just how it was. So if I can pass that on to a few people, then that is great. Your mind says you sound like the redhead guy from the Sex Pistols when you change your voice. Long live the Sex Pistols. Yeah, funny, I was reading actually somebody's biography last night. I was reading the biography of Sebastian Horsley, who's an interesting character. If you guys want to look him up, I might probably do some content on him at some point. And he was talking about the Sex Pistols, which is kind of strange synchronicity that you mention it. The Sex Pistols were great. Johnny Rotten, who is the guy that you are talking about, or John Lydon is his real name. Fantastic, eccentric, English, British guy. Well, Irish actually, but Irish, British guy. Fantastic. You need to look into Sex Pistols, but also his solo stuff, or his stuff with Public Image Limited, and his solo stuff as well. Alex says some people find either Western women in their area harder or easier. What is your experience like to the women in your area compared to while traveling? Well, no, I mean traveling. It is easier. It is easier traveling, definitely, definitely, or at least maybe easier is the wrong word, but it's certainly you certainly get a fairer hearing. I think when you travel, and also I get more interest when I travel. You know, like if I walk down the streets in London, then I'm not getting loads and loads of interest because I'm just another dude. You know, like a whatever. If I when I times I've been to Russia or Ukraine or maybe even somewhere like Budapest, um, I'm just getting more organic interest because I guess I look different. You know, they kind of sense that I'm not from there. I've got that kind of exotic value. So yeah, 100%. It's definitely an advantage, and this is why everyone should travel. And the whole thing of like, oh, it's looks maxing. Well, call it what you want, but you should be doing it. It's nothing new. Casanova did it. Casanova was the first travel max guy, perhaps. Well, I guess he wasn't actually. Maybe it was in Homer's Odyssey or something. But I mean, Casanova was an early proponent of travel maxing. He wasn't a great looking dude, but he traveled and he had a very good time of it in different countries. So he was leveraging that back in the 18th century. So like, this is nothing new. This isn't something that was born in the back passage of Reddit or anything. This is just something that's like, this is just something that's been going for ages. What is hip hop? Says Troy. Your accent would kill in parts of the US. You probably know that though. Well, yeah. I mean, like, let me know which bits, because because the places I've been to are New York, Miami, Vegas, and I think that's about it really. And I have to say, in those places, well, actually, New York, it's helped me a little bit in New York sometimes, but in general, I think in those places it doesn't quite have the massive cachet because I guess they're a bit more international. I mean, to be fair, actually, when I was in Miami, I was with a girlfriend, so I wasn't really testing it out. So maybe it's better down there. I don't know. New York, I think probably not because it's a very international place and, whatever. Ian says, how have you made connections, friends in a completely new city where you know nobody and have no social leverage yet? Well, I've done it I mean, the internet is your friend, really, and even within the game space or the dating space, if you like, there are groups, or there are Facebook groups, there are forums, there are places where I mean, even people's YouTube channels. I mean, if you go to Naughty Nomad, for example, Mark Zollo, if you look at his YouTube channel, check out some of the videos, maybe look at some of the comments. There are ways to meet up with other guys. James Tusk as well. James Tusk, the day game dude, who you may have seen me interviewed by and interviewing in this week. He interviewed me this week, and I did something with him the week before. He has, I think, if you go to his channel, search for James Tusk. I think informally, but he's got a lot of connections across the world, and he puts guys in contact with different guys if they want to meet up and go and do some games together and all that kind of thing. So that's a really good way. I mean, I have to say I am pretty lucky in some ways because I am part of a 12-step organization which is worldwide, and what that means is that in most places in the world, if I want to go to a meeting, I just go to a meeting and I'm going to, and then you can meet people there. You might go for coffee, whatever. And I've made certainly many friends in Berlin doing that. I've made friends in New York doing that. I've met people in Warsaw, in Poland, in Barcelona, Paris, all over the place really. So I'm kind of, I mean, I'm not lucky because I have to go, I'm in a bloody recovery organization. But in another way, I kind of am lucky because it's sort of given me a global network, which has been really, really useful. I appreciate that's perhaps not very helpful for those people watching this who are not alcoholics or addicts, but I'm just being upfront. That's kind of how I've done it. That's been fantastic. But short of that, as I say, I mean, I think the internet, I mean, I think there are, if you if you get on a forum or you get into a Facebook group or something like that, and then you're just like, hey guys, I'm planning to visit Krakow in November. Is anybody out? Is anybody there? Then you should get to a position where you're finding people, like-minded people, and you can meet up with them. So I think that's the way to go. The other thing as well is like if you're doing game, you should equally be able to, you can go and meet different girls and maybe sort of hang out with their friends and things like that. And equally, you should be able to get talking to guys as well if you're in the bar or something like that. So the social skills that you learn through Charisma and Dating Academy and through studying this stuff and practicing put you in a much better position in order to to be social when you're in other places. So if not an alcoholic or addict, then a BJ class. Do you mean BJ as in blowjob class? Network events, nomad hubs. Yeah, exactly. All of that kind of stuff. All of that kind of stuff for sure. Thoughts on indirect game? Yeah, absolutely. It's fine. I mean, like I personally like direct. I like to go in and just say, hey, I think you look sexy. I think you look cute. I think you look nice. I wanted to come and get to know you. Like I quite like that directness. But indirect game, which is when you go in and say something like, oh, I couldn't help notice you got some shopping bags from Harrods. Where is that store? Or, oh, you're wearing red. I was looking for something similar for my sister. Where did you get that? Or, whatever. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. However you can open a conversation is valid. Your job is to open the conversation, okay? It doesn't matter how you're doing it, right? Your job is to open. Jimmy says you can find local activity groups on Facebook. Absolutely. Couchsurfer, Meetup, sports, dancing, other types of clubs. Yeah, I mean, look, the internet is our friend. And, we are in an amazing situation now where there is all of this connectivity. I mean, there's going to be loads of stuff out there. You just have to do the research. Wayne says, I struggle to get hard on after loads of beers of an evening. Do you recommend supplements long-term like Viagra? Carmagra. Well, I don't know about Carmagra. Viagra, I've certainly used, and it's a lot of fun. There are certain side effects to it. It can make you, apart from the obvious, not being able to get it down, it can make you quite flushed in the face. It can make you... what else? Give you hiccups. That's a strange one. It can make you very tired the next day. It can make you kind of irritable the next day as well. It can make your heart rate beat faster because obviously it's directed. It affects the blood flow. So there are a number of sort of side effects. I mean, fairly mild side effects, I have to say, but it's worth doing a little bit of research before you get into it, but it works. I mean, it's good stuff. The other thing that guys often recommend is Cialis, which I've also used, although not as frequently as Viagra. And Cialis is pretty good. I mean, some guys swear by it because it operates in a way where you take it and then I think it lasts for 24 hours or something like that. So in theory, you take it, and then if there's any stimulation in that next 24-hour period, then you're good to go. So that's another one that's worth looking into as well. And arguably, it might be a little better than Viagra because it's a bit more sort of. I don't know. Viagra lasts for a shorter period of time, and it's pretty sort of. The idea is you take it, and then bang, you're good to go for a period of time, and then it wears off. My understanding with Cialis, and I've used it a couple of times, but not extensively, is that the idea is that you kind of take it and then it stays in your system for longer. A little bit more mild in that sense. So yeah, look at those. I don't know what the other one is. Oh no, I have heard of the other one actually, but I've never tried it. So yeah. Jimmy says, addict here and fellowship member. Hello sir, one day at a time. Priapism too. It's a good word, isn't it? Priapism. He says, is direct game working when you're in your late 30s? Well, yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, well, particularly your late 30s. I mean, it might not be working for me now because I'm like, I'm over the hill, guys. I'm like 40 plus. It's certainly, I mean, but my late 30s were, the best period ever in terms of my dating and game history. And yeah, it absolutely worked then. I mean, all you're doing is you're making it clear up front why you are approaching. You're making it clear why you're engaging in the first place. Indirect game is not a way to. How do I put this? It's not a way to sort of trick. It's not like a trick where you kind of go sneak in through the back way. You start talking about where the local McDonald's is, and then suddenly she's like, "Oh my god, he was hitting on me after all, and he's gorgeous. I love him." It doesn't work like that. She's going to kind of be attracted or not, regardless of whether you go direct or indirect. I mean, the argument for indirect is that it buys you a bit more time, and she can kind of like warm up to your personality a little more. And there's some merit to that, for sure. But I don't think that it's not a sort of an equation whereby, well, when I reach a certain age, I can't do direct anymore. It very much depends on the circumstances, where you are geographically as well. That value thing, that exotic value thing comes into play. All of these different things, how much time you've got. So there's so many different factors. I mean, I would use both of them. So I'd use direct. My default, my preferred method is direct, but I would also use indirect sometimes. Like say you're in an airport or something like that, or say you are sitting next to a girl on the plane and she's really attractive and you want to get to know her, and you're going to be sitting on the plane with her for 10 hours. It's not sensible in that circumstance to go direct, because if she says thanks but no thanks, then you're going to have a very awkward 10 hours sitting next to her, and etc. So in that situation, it's much better to go indirect and kind of start a conversation and whatever. Similarly, if you are in a place where it's really high pressure socially, like say you're in a really busy shop or something like that, for sure, you want to maybe go indirect, just get the ball rolling. Okay. Other times, direct is fine. Like it's all right to go up and say, I think you're nice, I think you're attractive. You'll get a sense from that. If she's into it or not. If she is, you carry on. If she's not, you wish her good day and you move along, and that's absolutely fine. Oh dear. Gay sex is my best friend. Very glad to hear it. Adam from Florida says, if you could reverse time, what would your primary focus be on in your 20s to 30s? I mean, I think probably, like everybody says, I would focus more on work and stacking cash and, doing some, I think if I had the time again, I would be aware that actually your successes in dating are not as important as you think they are, and really there are more important things to work on, which tend to come down to your mission, what you actually want to do with your life over and above dating and so on. So I think it would be the rather boring but sensible kind of like I would concentrate more on my work and everything. But I mean, saying that, I don't regret. Je ne regrette rien. I don't regret anything. I think things were as they were. It's all good. I had some experiences which have informed the rest of my life and my character, and I think that's a valuable thing. So what can you do? And the thing is as well, when you're a young guy, if you're anything like me, I was quite, I had a lot of hormones. I had a lot of the old testosterone running around in the system, and you're kind of led by that. That's just kind of how it goes. So as much as I can say now, wouldn't it be better if I'd have sat in a room and worked on my business for 12 hours a day? How realistic is that? Probably not massively realistic. So if I had to give advice to somebody who's coming into their 20s or whatever, I would say try and have some balance. Try to be working on a plan for the future, your business, your great projects, your art, whatever it is you want to do, as well as the dating stuff. Make sure you're getting both of them covered off. But to be fair, I was doing that as well. It wasn't like I was just doing dating. It was just that probably for me, the balance was out of whack. There was too much emphasis on sex and there wasn't enough emphasis on the other stuff, Jimmy says, I can date 20-year-olds into my 60s, no problem. What age are you now, Jimmy, though? You're not saying you're in your 60s now, are you? Oh, wait, actually, saying Ian says, your peak can last well into your mid-40s if you play it well, dude. And even then, the decline is gradual. Well, it is. And I was talking to John MLD about this the other day, actually, on his show. And I mean, I know guys who are in their 50s, certainly, who are still out and about, still getting some decent traction in the dating marketplace. Albeit one of them lives in Poland, so a little bit of geomexing there, but nevertheless. So it is, certainly into your 50s, I think early 50s, certainly possible. Beyond that, who knows? It kind of depends on you and what nick you're in, really. But I would also suggest that as you get older, the desire does start to flag anyway. You just won't be as driven. Like, guys are like, what am I going to do when I'm 60? It's like, well, to be honest, you're probably not going to be that bothered by the time you're 60. I mean, I'm less bothered now in my 40s than I was in my 20s. It does start to decline. And so that's just how it goes, right? And, and that's a good thing, because you don't want to be at that white hot peak of desire for your entire life. It's just not a good place to be forever. Ian says it does seem men lose their attractiveness when they give up rather than when nature dictates. Well, I mean, we all know famous older dudes who still look fantastically good even though they're in their late 40s or 50s. Guys can look good as they grow older. And as you say, I mean, a lot of it comes down to how you look after yourself. I mean, I think not drinking alcohol or moderating alcohol is good. I imagine not smoking is good as well. I mean, I haven't smoked for a long time, but not smoking is a good thing. Yeah. I mean, trying to reduce stress as much as you can is probably a good thing. Getting this good sleep, all of that stuff, and working out. I mean, you know all the stuff already. It's all very well known, but you certainly can remain looking decent for a long time as a guy. And in many ways, you look better. I mean, I looked better in my late 30s than I did in my 20s, for sure. I mean, in my 20s, I was very baby-faced. I was a bit puffy in the face, stuff like that. I think in my 30s, I started to look more masculine, perhaps. There was a sort of gravitas that came to my looks with age. I think I aged into myself quite well. So, you'd be surprised. You can actually start to look better as you get older. I mean, of course, there's going to be a cutoff point. We all know that. But by then, you're not going to be that bothered. You can just sit at home and watch Miss Marple on TV. I mean, and drink some cocoa or some hot chocolate. It's fine. Don't worry about it. What is hip hop says, not smoking and drinking has been key for me in the gym, plus a little stress. Yeah, absolutely. I co-sign that. The other thing as well is, I'll tell you this story very quickly before we finish. Having a good wingman is really, really important, okay? And guys often don't say, so I want to get a wingman, but what kind of guy should I choose? How should it work? Blah, blah, blah. What kind of guy? And, you need to, ideally you want to select somebody who you're mates with, but who has a bit of an understanding of dating and women and how it all works, and somebody who's not going to try to screw you over and try to steal, say you've started talking to a girl that you really like, and then he comes over and tries to, to muscle in or anything like, you don't want that. But I'll tell you what's a really, really bad wingman, okay? So what's interesting about my existence is that obviously I'm doing this stuff as my job. But then in my personal life, I've got, I go to these recovery meetings and stuff like that. And I've got a very sort of strange, wide-ranging group of friends through that and through some other stuff as well. But so I've got friends who are wealthy and very successful, and very intelligent, and all the rest of it. And then I've got friends in low places as well. And I'm friends with one guy, schizophrenic guy, who we'll call Dave. And I've known him for many years, and he's a really lovely guy. He's very intelligent, but he is nuts, because that's just how things go. And I see him a lot at recovery meetings, and we sort of hang out sometimes and things like that. And he's a good guy, and I try to look out for him a little bit, because I've known him for a long time, and he has some issues in his life. Anyway, one time we'd been to a recovery meeting, and it was during the summer, a while back, and I was in a good mood, blah blah blah, and I had been to a fast food restaurant on the high street before the meeting, and I'd seen the girl behind the counter was really, really cute. So I got talking to this girl, and there'd been a little bit of flirty sort of interplay. I felt like she was digging me a little bit. I was digging her. There was just that little bit of a spark there and everything. And I didn't go for the phone number at that point, because sometimes if it's somebody who's working in a place and you kind of know that you're going to see them again later or something, then it's not necessary to go for the close immediately. Sometimes you can think, well, I'll pop back later and whatever. So I thought, right, do you know what? I'll pop back later. After the meeting, I thought, right, I'm going to pop in, I'm going to speak to that girl, and I'm going to try and get the number. So I'm walking down the high street with Dave, and I said to him, listen, I'm just going to pop in there, and I'm going to get a sandwich, and I want to speak to the girl in there. And Dave's like, yeah, all right, mate, all right, Troy. I'll wait outside. And he rolls up a fag, and he's like, right, I'll smoke. I'm going to smoke a fag outside. Smoking the fag outside. Anyway, I go in, and by the way, this dude, he's got like big beard. He's got like wearing scruffy kind of clothes, like old Adidas track pants, baggy jumper, roach burns in the jumper. Just like really undesirable looking guy. And I'm there wearing my sort of like fancy, Troy Francis kind of gear, like trying to be all like, suave and everything. So I go in, and the girl's still there, and she's like, oh, hi, blah, blah, blah. And I ordered what I wanted to order, and we're chatting and everything. And I'm like, so, do you know what? We really should exchange numbers, because you seem pretty cool. I understand you're working at the moment. I know it's a bit random, but it'd be really cool. We should meet up another time. And she's sort of, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll give you, I don't normally give my number. Anyway, at that point, Dave rolls in. He walks in, so there's people sitting around in the fast food restaurant, and I'm at the counter talking to this girl, trying to be all smooth and like, so, yeah, the name's Francis. Troy Francis. And Dave rocks in, and he's like, Troy, and he's like waving a £50 note. He's like, Troy, have you got change for a 50? The dealer's here. He's got. I want to buy some weed. Have you got change? And he's like shouting, and everyone looks around in the fast food place at this Dave, like looking scruffy with a big beard, like with the £50 note. So have you got change? And then he barrels through the people sitting down. He goes to the counter, and he's like, and the girl is just like looking at me like, what? Who the fuck is it? Like, who is this guy? I'm like. And he's like, yeah, you've got 50. Yeah, I met this dealer outside. Yeah, he's got some weed. And he's like, oh yeah, you got change for a 50. And she's like, oh well, I can't open the till at the moment because of like blah blah blah. And I was like, oh god, this is just terrible. This is the worst possible, because obviously, ideally, you want to portray yourself in a good light, and when you've got friends in very low places. Like I do, then sometimes that impression is not always perhaps optimal, let's say. Anyway, suffice to say, eventually she got the till open, and changed up the 50 for some money, and he was like, oh, cheers, and he went out and, did whatever he was going to do. And I was just like so aghast. I was just like, listen, I'll see you later, and I just left, because I was like, this is just such a bizarre scenario, and that was it. So you be careful with the people that you wing with, because it can really, really affect you positively, and it can really, really affect you adversely as well. Anyway, I thought I'd just tell that little story because I thought it was quite funny. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you very much for joining the stream. Please do hit subscribe. So the red button below, hit the red subscribe button so that you're notified when new live streams come up, new videos come up on this channel. Do also hit that notifications bell. Also, give me a thumbs up, give me a comment below. All of that good stuff really helps me to spread the word, kick in the algorithm, all of that good stuff. Yeah, support me on Patreon as well. I've got a fantastic Patreon, $25 a month. That's it, and you get access to. I do one free VIP video per week. Comes out on a Friday. We do 2 live webinar calls with the group where we talk about dating, game, all of that stuff. This is the real, behind the curtain stuff that we're not able to show on YouTube. There's a private Facebook group, and you get regular contact with me, updates, etc., etc. So the link for that is below. Jump on board with that. Really looking forward to getting the, growing that group, and we're gonna have some exciting stuff coming up for sure. And yeah, I think that's about it, really. So have a good weekend, guys, and I will see you very soon. If you've got any comments, suggestions, drop them in the comments below, and we'll take it from there. But anyway, guys, have a good one, and we will speak again very soon. Bye-bye.